welcome back to the Maine Morgue. I am your host, Jamie Santamore. This week I'm going to start off, I can't believe it's already episode 5, but I'm going to start off this week answering 5 random questions I got via email this week. First question: if you could have any superpowers, what would they be and why? I've been watching a lot of superhero movies lately. Batman vs. Superman would be the last one I watched. Last new one I've watched. And I'm going to talk about that later on in the show. But I would have to say, after watching all the ones I've watched recently, I would want to have Wolverine's superpowers. Meaning the quick healing ability and the adamantium bone structure. Because I just think that'd be cool and be an awesome way to help people. Next question: what do you do when you experience writer's block? And honestly, writer's block, that's my default. When I sit down to write, I think of myself as in a writer's block because I'm just sitting down to start the day. In terms of what I do when I'm in the middle of writing and I experience a bout of writer's block, I actually shut everything down, go watch a movie, go listen to some horror interviews, go watch some review videos, anything to keep my mind busy and thinking and working towards solving the block. Next question: slow burn or fast-paced horror? I assume the question is, which do I prefer? And I like both. I mean, in today's day and age, in 2016, there's so much fast-paced horror that I think people have lost the enjoyment of a slow burn film. And what I mean by a slow burn film, a perfect example would be John Carpenter's Halloween. That is a slow burn all the way through to the climactic ending, where they build you up with suspense and terror, and then they never really let you come back down, only to bring you back up. They never bring you back to base until the end. So I like both, but I will say that in my filmmaking experience, which is 2 films, I'm currently writing the 3rd one, I tend to have a happy medium between a slow burn and then fast pace. Right around the middle of the movie is when the pace kicks in and I start doing things at a faster rate because I want to get as much as I can into each movie. And you'll see that in Sins of Man 2 Vengeance when it's released on Halloween. Next question: why do you write horror? Why not? That's usually what I say to people. Why not? And the reason I write horror is because I enjoy being scared. I think it's primal. I think it's in us all to kind of enjoy being scared, especially when we know we're in a safe environment, that the terror we feel will go away when you stop watching the movie, when the credits roll. I enjoy writing things that are just horrible and terrible and disgusting because, believe it or not, for me, it's therapy. If I have a bad day and I'm just like, fuck the world, I'll come in and I'll write a quick scene describing a murder and I feel better. I didn't actually go out and commit the murder, but I wrote it down and it makes me feel better. So, as strange as that sounds, that's why I write horror. Final question, and this is going to be a weekly segment. I'm going to answer questions. Final one is, what genre of film do you want to make that might surprise fans? Well, for my hardcore horror fans, I think it would be my want to make a romantic movie like an I Love You, Beth Cooper, or coming of age story. And it might surprise some fans to know that I'd like to make a superhero movie. You know, create my own superhero, my own supervillain, and all that, and not try to step on anybody's toes, whether it be Marvel or DC. I'm going to take a quick break, a word from a local business, and I'll be back shortly. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. I am your host, Jamie Santamore. Segment 2 this week is going to be centered around the announcement I made last week on sinsamanmovie.com and on YouTube. The video basically divulged to the world that I would be officially stepping down as director of Sins of Man 3 Tribulation, which is our final film in the Sins of Man trilogy. And there are a few reasons that I decided to step down. Mainly because I wanted to create the best possible movie with the resources we have available to us. And the best way for me to do that is to concentrate on the storytelling and the writing of the script. And I want to be 100% clear with everybody. I was not forced out by anyone. This was a decision that I came to on my own after conversing with the person I selected to take my place as director. And I laugh whenever people email me and ask me if I was booted from the project. Because I am the owner and the founder of Wicked Carnival Productions. Sins of Man is my screenplay, my idea, so who exactly would force me off the project? I mean, it's my own project. And it's comical when you stop and think about it that way. I made this choice because it is what is best for business, it is what is best for the project and the franchise. And I'm leaving the directing up to a much more qualified person, that being Chris Fife, who is my executive producer on the first two movies, my cameraman, my audio guy, my sound guy, my music man. He does so much behind the scenes that I think he will do a much better job than I can as the director of Sins of Man 3 Tribulation. Now, I'm not walking away from the project completely. As I stated in the announcement, I'm writing the script. I'm staying on as script supervisor, so I will be there on set every day. And I'm staying on as a producer, so I will have somewhat of creative influence on the project. And Chris and I get along amazingly, so I don't think there will be any issues whatsoever with us having conversations on set. I don't think it'll get heated at all. And I think he's going to deliver an amazing film. I'm 100% sure that he can do this. And I know he's going to make an awesome film to finish off the Sins of Man trilogy. I'll be right back after a word from another one of our sponsors. You're watching the Maine Morgue. Welcome back. Right now I'd like to talk a little bit about something that I hear a lot about online, and I watch a lot of videos on, and it's original stories versus retold stories. And to be honest with you, as an independent filmmaker, I don't think there's a whole lot of new, fresh ideas out there. Now let's talk about that for a second, for a minute. All action movies, basically the same story. All romantic movies, basically the same story. And Lord knows, all slasher movies are basically the same. The trick is to create a story that changes the order of the pieces of that story, and maybe tells the story in a slightly different way. There are a lot of new ways to tell an old story. Horror and monster movies, for example, are some of the oldest in history. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and The Invisible Man. They're all classic films and have been remade more than any other film in the horror genre, if you think about it. Look at any monster movie today, like Cloverfield or Pacific Rim. And you have to look at the original monster movie, Godzilla. Without that film and that series of films, you probably wouldn't have the modern monsters without Universal's classics, like I mentioned. You wouldn't have Leatherface, Michael, Jason, Freddy without Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, and The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Again, it's nothing original. I mean, you could very easily say that Jason Voorhees is the modern Frankenstein. Very easily say that. You could say that Jeepers Creepers is a direct relation to the creature from the Black Lagoon, that type of mythology. Everybody claims that they want new, fresh ideas, new stories, new characters in films. And what you really want is simply for us to tell you the same story with different pieces in different places and make it look fresh and new. Look at any movie and you can almost relate it to another movie from days past. And my films are no different. The Sins of Man trilogy draws heavily on inspiration from Halloween and Scream. And I admit that, and I know I will never back away from that because it's the truth. When you watch Rise of Mortis and you get the feeling that you've seen this movie before a bunch of times, and then wham, we hit you with something that's completely out of place and it changes your viewing experience. And I think you're going to see that in Vengeance as well. I want to do that with all my films, no matter what genre they are. I want to give you the pieces of the puzzle and just kind of change them around a little bit and make it look new, look fresh, make it exciting. But I think the point I'm trying to make with this segment is that there really isn't anything fresh and new out there that's marketable. And indie filmmakers come up with fresh and new stuff that Hollywood would never touch because they go with what's proven and what makes money. Indie filmmakers have the obligation, or not really the obligation, the opportunity to create something that, okay, yeah, maybe, like I said, I drew inspiration from Halloween and Scream, but I give a lot of credit to those movies, and even like Friday and Nightmare and Child's Play and those classics. But I also try to give you guys something new, like I talked about, something different. And I don't want to give anything away for those of you that haven't seen Rise of Mortis, but I did things in that movie that are against the grain, and that was done on purpose. And I would like to say that I cast Bridget Keith, who I'm actually going to talk about later in the show, as JJ originally, but the sad truth of that is she was the third choice, and she landed the lead role because the two people prior to her backed out. And I just kind of said, okay, you know what? I think you can handle this. I think you'll make a great JJ, so boom, you're JJ. And I'm very happy to say that I was right. That was a gamble that I took that goes against the grain, and I think it really pays off in both Rise of Mortis and Vengeance. And be sure to check those out. You can get Rise of Mortis on DVD at bullmoose.com and at Bull Moose stores throughout the state of Maine. Bullmoose.com, if you live in the United States, they will ship to you. Vengeance will be released on Halloween, again, through Bull Moose and bullmoose.com. And we're going to take a quick break and be back in just a few short minutes. You are listening to the Maine Morgue. This is just a friendly reminder. You can pick up Wicked Carnival Productions' first feature film, Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis, at bullmoose.com and at Bull Moose locations throughout the state of Maine. Once again, that's Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis, available at bullmoose.com. And now, back to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back. Last week I talked about how much I hate writing outlines. Because they're time consuming. But at the same time I admitted that they're useful and an important part of the creative process. So this week I want to talk about the time consuming practice of writing multiple drafts of your script, or for your script. My issue with multiple drafts of a script is because it becomes confusing for me as the writer as to what ends up in the shooting script. And thinking during production that something that wasn't in the shooting script but was in an earlier version might have worked better in a certain situation. And now that I have quote unquote mastered the outline process, complete with dialogue for my scenes for Sins of Man 3 Tribulation, I think I'm going to attempt to make the draft of the script that I'm currently writing the shooting script, because I hate rewrites. But then again, I've never really been able to focus solely on the writing of a project. I've always been doing writing, directing, location scouting, hiring the actors. I've been doing 1,000,001 things all at once. And really the only thing I'm giving up is the directing of Part 3. I will still have a hand in just about everything else, but I will solely be writing the script. That will be my job. Excuse me for a second while I take a drink of water. So, in making this the shooting script, I feel like we can avoid a lot of problems that we've had in the past. Because, if there's a lot of versions of the script floating around between cast members and crew, it can cause a lot of issues on set during shooting. And I'm going to illustrate this by telling you a story from the set of Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis. Bridget Keith, who I talked about briefly earlier, she plays JJ in the trilogy. And she was a first-time screen actress. She'd had some stage experience, but as anybody that's made the transition knows, stage to screen is a very difficult transition to make for many reasons. So anyways, she shows up on set, and we're running over the lines and how everybody's going to be seated in the scene and everything, and we call action on the opening scenes, and she's acting all happy and bubbly and just like she doesn't have a care in the world, happy-go-lucky. And I looked at Chris, who was the cameraman and my audio sound guy, and I was just like, wait, there's something not right here. So on the way home, we were talking about how we're going to reshoot the scenes from the previous day, and we want her to play more dark and more gloomy, kind of just more of a depressed, kind of mellow, based on what happened in the movie and what happened prior to the events of the movie. We thought it would work better. And that's what I had written in the script. So I pulled Bridget aside that second day, and I said, why are you reading the lines like you're happy? And she goes, well, that's what it says in the script. And I'm like, no. And I showed her my script, and it said, frumpy, depressed girl. And she shows me her script, and it's happy-go-lucky teenage girl. It was a prior version of the script that she was reading from. So long story short, always make sure that your cast has the shooting script and that everything is the way you want it. It will save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches on set. So the less versions of the script you actually hand out, the better off you'll be. Vengeance, we had one script that I sent out prior to table read. And probably 3 weeks before the first table read, we had to do a complete rewrite of the script because cast members decided that they didn't want to be in part 2 due to travel and time and all this other stuff. So we had to completely change the story, completely change the characters, and I handed out that script for table reads, and after that everything was fine. We didn't change the script after that in a major way. Of course we changed things on the fly because we did things a little differently here and there. And I can't fault Bridget for that. That was my inexperience as a director that caused that issue on set during Rise of Mortis. And we didn't have that problem while we were filming Vengeance. And I don't think we'll have that problem while we're filming Tribulation. Because I plan on making the first version of the script the final version in the shooting script. Because I have a very good idea of how we're going to do it. I'm going to take a short break. Let you guys listen to a little commercial I've done for Bull Moose and Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis, and I'll be right back. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. Check out the official website for Wicked Carnival Productions, at wickedcarnivalproductions.com. There you will be able to read our blogs, watch our videos, movie reviews, catch up on all things Wicked Carnival Productions, all things Sins of Man. We would greatly appreciate your support, and please check out wickedcarnivalproductions.com. Now back to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. Earlier this week I received an email about my creative process, and I believe I talked about it a little bit in episode 1, how my creative process works, but I was asked by a fan to explain my creative process in greater detail. I mean, I'll go over it again, but I'm pretty sure I talked about it in the first show. Or I know I've done a blog about it, and I've talked about it on other videos. But here it goes. First thing I do, right off the bat, is I determine who the killer is and what his or her motive is going to be. Whether I'm going to divulge it in the movie or not, I want to know what my killer is going to be doing and why they're going to be doing it. And I like to know the killer before I write a single line of dialogue or action, because it helps me build this person up and make it make sense to me who they are. I mean, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else, it makes sense to me. And I mean, the killer is the character that most fans are going to walk away thinking about, along with the second character that I create, and that is the final girl and who she is. And if the casting of Bridget Keith as JJ in my Sins of Man trilogy is any indication, I'm almost always going to cast against the stereotype of what a final girl should look like, basically just because I can. I was lucky enough to find Bridget and be able to get her in there as JJ, and it's funny, 2 years into this, I can't imagine another person playing JJ, which is one reason I'm glad I control the property and it can never be remade, because Bridget Keith is my JJ. Now, the next thing I create is the final girl's friends and the cast of characters, accompanied by the ways that they will all die. I work this all out as a way to make sure I do things in a fun, interesting, creative way for the audience. The next thing I talk about and discuss with myself, of course, because I talk to myself, most crazy people do, is the places that the story will take place. And I try to use places that make sense to the story, but sometimes I have to change those things to make them work. And I mean, originally, Sins of Man was supposed to take place in high school, with high school kids, but I could not get clearance from the Lake Region School District to film in their high school, which, you know, that's neither here nor there. Lesson learned. We ended up making Rise of Mortis as a camping movie, which a lot of people think that it's a tribute to Friday the 13th, and if you want to think that, that's great. I appreciate it, but that wasn't the intention. It was more of supposed to be a high school movie with the big finale taking place actually in a high school classroom. So the next thing I do is I'm going to start writing the script because I'm ready. I've got all the elements that I need. And the first thing I write is the opening scene death, followed by the middle of the movie twist, and then the ending, so I know where I'm going. Then I fill in the blanks with the deaths of the characters, sprinkled in with clues for the final girl and the hero to figure out who the killer is, or try to figure out who the killer is, as well as scenes that progress the story in the way that I want to tell it. And see, that's an important piece right there. I believe that every director for every project has a vision of what they want to see and how they want to see it done on the screen. And a lot of people have issue with a director's vision. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the last segment of the show, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But a director's vision is just that, his or her vision. You can't change it. If you don't like the director's vision, it's probably because you didn't understand it. I'm going to take a quick little break here. I don't believe there's an ad for this little break. I'm just going to take a quick break before I head into the final segment of the show. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. I'm going to wrap up this week's show by talking about Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and the wow factor. And I want to preface this final segment of the show this week by saying that I am not, 100% not a DC fanboy at all. I don't read comic books, but I do love watching the comic book movies. I loved the original Superman film as well as the original Batman film. And I mean, of course, the Christopher Nolan Batman films were absolutely stunning. Amazing films. Christopher Nolan has a great eye for the Batman story. And watching the Batman trilogy from Christopher Nolan made me love DC even more. And now we have the latest DC offerings of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And this movie gets a lot of crap thrown at it, specifically Batman v Superman. But let me talk about Man of Steel first. What most people don't understand, most viewers don't understand about Man of Steel is that Clark Kent has not been, quote-unquote, Superman that long. He's just learning about his powers and who he is and what he can do. He's learning to be Superman. And the biggest thing I hear from fans is, why does Superman kill Zod? Superman doesn't kill people. Okay, Superman in the comic books has a no-kill code. So how does Superman in the movie know that he doesn't kill people when he's never been faced with the choice or the desire or the need to kill somebody? He kills Zod to save the people that are in immediate danger. Now you fast forward to Batman v Superman. People complain that Batman stops short of killing Superman when all he has to do is run him through with the spear. Because Superman says to him, with his last breath, "You're letting them kill Martha." And the misconception, and it's a huge one, is that because their mothers are both named Martha, Batman lets him live. When the fact of the matter is that Batman let him live because he realizes that Superman is showing compassion for his human mother and thus the human race. Batman realizes that Superman isn't evil or hell-bent on destroying the planet. He's here to protect Earth and its people. Batman sees the humanity in Superman. Now, critics pan this movie because they don't like Zack Snyder as a director and because they don't follow the superhero format that has become so popular since X-Men. And he tried to do something new and different with the Superman character, which, good for him. Absolutely fucking phenomenal that Zack Snyder had the balls to change the way superhero movies are made, to change the way Superman is seen. Because like I said, Superman wasn't Superman from the opening credits of Man of Steel to the end. Clark Kent became Superman to save Metropolis and thus save the world. He knew he had to make a choice. Am I going to honor my Kryptonian heritage, or am I going to protect my adopted planet of Earth? And like he says in Batman v Superman, this is my planet, talking about Earth. So take that for what it's worth. Now I want to talk about the wow factor of Batman v Superman. And for me, that was that Zack Snyder had the balls and had Doomsday kill Superman in the second Superman movie of the new franchise. I was watching it in my living room and I went, wow, they actually did it. And I had wanted to see this happen in a Superman film since the comic book came out all those years ago. Yes, I read The Death of Superman. I actually have a copy that my father got me when I was a kid. I mean, that's what everybody wanted to see. Since Superman 4 was over, and they started talking about a new Superman movie. When Superman Returns was talked about, everybody wanted it to be the Doomsday storyline, and it wasn't. So for Zack Snyder to pull this off was a very gutsy move. Now you think about this for a second. The entire movie, Batman v Superman, Batman thinks that Superman is out to destroy Earth and can destroy the Earth and can take over the planet because who's there to stop him? Well, Batman, of course. Now, at the end of that movie, Superman, a god among men, makes the ultimate sacrifice for mankind by delivering the death blow to Doomsday, then sacrificing his life, and shows the humanity of Superman. And yes, Superman is honored as a hero after the fact. It's like that frame in the movie. If you're looking for his monument, look around. He gave his life to save humanity. And you know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it's these people that miss the themes of the movie, that write these reviews and give these reviews that you weren't paying attention. It's, oh, he did this, and oh, it's Zack Snyder, and you trash it because it's a Zack Snyder film. Why? The guy can have a bad film or two. Some of the stuff he's done is amazing. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman were amazing films. Both visually, story-wise, everything. They were just, the soundtrack for these films is amazing. And you know, I don't mind that Superman had help from Wonder Woman and Batman to kill Doomsday. But I'll tell you, it really would have been sweet to see Superman versus Doomsday. The movie was very good the way it was done, but I mean, everybody that read the comic book back in the day wanted to see Superman fight Doomsday without anybody else. You know, and I think next week I'm going to do an in-depth review of Batman v Superman and everything that I liked in that movie. And I might do it here on the Maine Morgue. I might do it as a separate blog or podcast bonus. I don't know yet. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for listening every week. I love you guys. You guys are the reason I do this podcast. I enjoy doing it. It's fun. Even when I get hated, I just want people to know that it's passion that I'm conveying, not anger. I'm very passionate about film and cinema and the way things work and what doesn't work. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Once again, you're listening to the Maine Morgue. My name is Jamie Santamore. Take care, everybody. Stay humble, stay hungry, and I'll catch you guys next week.